Okay, so this webinar is an introduction to Google Apps at UNCG. So UNC Greensboro maintains an implementation of Google Apps for Education, otherwise known as GAFE. Google Apps for Education is a collection of web-based collaboration tools, including email, probably the one we use the most, chat, calendaring, word processing, spreadsheets, and many more. These tools work through a web browser without requiring users to buy or install software. Since UNCG is a Google App school, Google Apps are also supported through IT and through tutorials that your department makes, such as instructional technology and even the main campus IT. So the first thing we're going to do is just go over the different tools you can use in Google, just briefly talk about what they are. And then we're going to talk about where you can find all the different apps within Google, and then where you can find tutorials at UNCG about Google, and especially the Google-made tutorials for Google for Education. And then we're going to talk briefly about the power of collaborating with Google apps, such as Docs, Forms, and Drawings, through sharing links and inviting in collaborators. And as we go along, if you have any questions, feel free to chat them in on the chat box, and I'll answer them as I go. This is a pretty laid-back session. So the first thing to do, like I said, is go through the different Google apps. So you have Drive is the first one. It's the cloud storage that allows you to store your documents, photos, videos, and more online. With Drive, you can use Google Docs, Google Sheets, and more to create and edit various types of files. At UNCG, your Google Drive account has unlimited storage, so it can be great in terms of storing files on the cloud, large files especially. Now there's Google Docs as well, which is a web-based document management application for creating and editing private and public word processing documents. These documents can be stored both online on the Google Cloud and or on the user's computer, so you can export them onto your computer. We're going to go through the docs a little bit at the end in terms of the formatting as well. There's also Google Forms, which is a useful tool to help you plan events, send a survey, give students a quiz, or collect other information in an easy, streamlined ways. They do their own analytics from Forms, so you don't even have to set up a spreadsheet if you don't like, but you can also export the analytics from a form to a spreadsheet. Slides is what I'm using to do this presentation. It is a part of the Google Office software to create presentations, including adding themes, sound, video, animation, and transitions. It's also great for collaborating on presentations with many people who need to work on a presentation. Next, you have Google Sheets. It allows users to create, update, and modify spreadsheets and share the data live online. You have Google Groups, which provides discussion groups for people sharing common interests. At UNCG, we use this as email listservs, so you're probably already using them and you don't know it. Hangouts is a unified communication service that allows members to initiate and participate in text, voice, or video chats, either one-on-one or in a group. This means it's a good free alternative to online conferencing sessions such as Blackboard Collaborate, which we currently use even though we're switching to WebEx, and Skype because it's free and online. So Google Sites is a structured wiki and web page creation tool offered by Google as a part of the Google Apps for Work Productivity Suite. The goal of the sites is for anyone to be able to create a team-oriented site where multiple people can collaborate and share files. Google Sites are a great method of running organizations through UNCG or any kind of group at UNCG that you need to store and edit and work on a lot of documents together. For example, SES uses a Google site to run their grad students and PhD students organization in terms of storing documents they need, updates, etc. So of course you have the Google Calendar, a time management web application and mobile app. There's Google Drawings, a diagramming software developed by Google. It allows users to collaborate and work together in real time to create flowcharts, organizational charts, website wireframes, mind maps, and more. It's basically a whiteboard that gives you the space to draw on, and you can add in collaborators, share it the same way as a Google Doc, which again, we're going to go over all that in a little bit. So Google also offers add-ons, which are apps that you can add onto your Google Drive account or Chrome to perform workflows more efficiently. For example, they have an add-on called Lucid Charts that does similar things to Google Docs, to Google Drawings, but you can add it on to a Google Doc in order to add flowcharts and things like that within a Google Doc. And of course there's YouTube, the largest video sharing site on the web. YouTube lets anyone upload videos for private or public viewing. Since YouTube is such a large system, we're not going to cover that in detail today, but I will show you where you can find some tutorials on YouTube. Google also has Blogger, which is their blogging tool, a tool for creating blogs with multiple contributors or solo. That's how we run the SOE Instructional Technology blog. There's also Google Voice, an internet telephony service that enables free worldwide PC-to-PC voice calls and video-enabled calls. There's Google Chrome, which is their web browser. It allows you to be connected to the Google account through a browser, which can be helpful in terms of having everything in one place through your browser. It also is how Chromebooks, if you ever use one of those, typically run. And last but not least, the one we're going to talk about today is Google Analytics. This is a web analytics software that tracks and reports website traffic. So Google Analytics is very powerful and free. So many companies and schools use this to track their website. So if you would like to know about this data for your website, such as for ERM's website, please contact Laura Caroline. She would be able to get that data for you. Okay, so that's covering the tools. We're not, like I said before, we're not going to go over all these tools. I just wanted to talk about them and what that meant. So do you have any questions in terms of just the tools before we move on? Okay, so next I'm going to move on to where you can find all these tools. So now you're going to be seeing my Google Drive accounts. So you can get to your Google Drive through your email, or you can get to it by going to drive.google.com. If you're in your email or anywhere within your Google account, you can click on this grid on the upper right-hand corner, and you can select Drive. This is also where you can quickly navigate to all of your Google apps. So here's a lot of the ones we just talked about. And then remember, you can see you can also click on More. So this goes and shows you more, and then be sure to click on Even More from Google. So if you click on this, it gives you this nice long list of all the stuff that you can use through Google. And you can see by going through this list, I didn't even talk about all the stuff that Google offers, just the ones that I typically get asked about the most. So if we go back to Google Drive, the next thing I'm going to quickly talk about, and again, I'm going to share all this information with you when this is over. You'll get a link to a guide with all of these links. But UNCG does have support for Google since we are a Google campus. All of our Google accounts are run, they call it through iSpartan. So if you go to ispartan.uncg.edu, you have quick links to access your mail, contacts, calendar, drive, group, sites, which we all talked about. You have quick links for support, help, and quick links here, including for Canvas, Campus Directory, things that are not necessarily related to Google. You also have UNCG news, academic calendar, etc. So UNCG IT also has ITS web pages based on your iSpartan account. So here again, you have links to many of the things we talked about within Google if you wanted to go straight to those places. Also on the left, they have pages that have more information about these elements of Google's. So for example, if you click on sites, it gives you some links to some tutorials on sites, including how to get there. So the School of Education Instructional Technology also makes guides for Google. So here's some common guides we have, and again, remember that this will be linked in the guide that we will send out after this webinar. We have collaborating in Google, sharing, editing, commenting, and suggesting in Google Docs. We're going to go over this workflow briefly in this webinar today. We have sharing large files with URLs at UNCG, YouTube, Google Drive, and Box. We're going to talk about Google Drive, sharing through there, but YouTube and Box are also great ways of doing it. YouTube, again, through Google, and Box is another cloud storage solution we have through UNCG. We're not going to talk about that today, but if anyone's interested, please email me and I can send you tutorials on how to set up and use your Box account. There's also a guide on making and sharing videos at UNCG, which has specific links and tutorials related to YouTube, which is the common way to share videos, not only at UNCG, but in academia and beyond. So next, now that we've talked about some places where you can find some support for Google, we're going to talk about collaborating within Google. So first, we're going to go over how to share files through a link. So you can share files through an upload of a PowerPoint, PDF, video, etc. It doesn't have to be just things that you make within Google Drive. You can also share a whole folder within Google Drive or upload a whole folder of files into Google Doc and share through this method I'm about to show you. So if anyone wants to follow along in this tutorial, you can go to your Drive and kind of see what I'm doing, but for the most part, you can really just watch. So if you want to upload a file or a folder full of files within Google, you can go to New, Folder Upload, or File Upload, or you could also just go to your desktop and drag a file into your Google Drive, which is what I'm going to do. So here I am dragging a PowerPoint into here. So it just takes a second to load, and then now you can see it within my Google Drive account. So if you want to start sharing this file and seeing other options that you want to do with this file, you can right-click on this file. So you can see here you can preview, open it with, etc. You can also share and get link. So these are both really kind of the similar method. You just get there in a different way. So if you click share, it's going to give you a box where you can invite in people to edit the link. You see here you can also get a shareable link through this option. If you right-click and click on Get Link, you get a link automatically. Please note that it's only specific people can access this file. So if you want to make sure that people who you are sending this link to will be able to access the file, click on the Share settings. You can see here you're sent to the same box where we went when we clicked on Share when we right-clicked. So now let's get the shareable link. So if you click here at the top to get a shareable link, you'll see that it automatically creates a link for anyone at UNCG to view. This will work in most situations where you want people to just be able to view and download the file. This will work for a download. If you want more options, such as anyone with UNCG can edit or comment, you can change it here. This won't matter as much for a file because they're mostly talking about with editing and commenting Google-specific, such as docs or sheets. So really just keeping it to view will work fine. But also if you click on more, you can change it to public, on the web, or anyone with a link. A lot of times I do change it to anyone with a link can access, just in case they're not logged into their UNCG email account. But if you want to keep it with anyone that UNCG can access, it means to access this link, they will have to be logged in to their UNCG email address. Okay, so if you save this, again, you can copy and paste this link now for anyone to be able to access. So I just copy and pasted it. This is what it would be like if you sent it to someone through an email, chat, etc. They'll see it like this, they'll be able to download it and view the file. Okay. So If there's any questions about that, that was just how you can share files or folders within Google Drive. You see here, if I click on a folder, I get the same option. So please remember, this can be a powerful tool for sharing folders of files, such as multiple videos, PDFs, etc. Okay, so now that we've been through this, we'll start a Google Doc, and we'll show you things that we can do to share and create editing and collaborating workflows within a Google Doc. I'm going to show an example of doing this all with a Google Doc, but please note that this kind of collaboration and editing and group environment you can create within Google Doc can be transferred to a Google Sheet, a Google Slide, etc. So to start a Google Doc, you just go to New Google Docs. Here you can name it. And you can just start working within it. So if you want to invite in collaborators or share for people to view what you're working on, it's the share button up here on the right. So every Google Doc or thing you create within Google Apps is automatically created to be private. So if you're ready, if you want to start sharing it for view or for editing, click this button and you'll see your options. So you can invite in people through their email addresses to edit. So if I wanted to invite in someone who's already in my contacts, it's really easy. I just start typing it in, and there they are. So I can go through and find which one I want to use. You can also write them a note, and once you push send, they get an email with the invitation in to start editing. You can also send a shareable link. So if you click this, again, you're going to get these same options. Anyone at UNCG can view. This is a good method to use if you're sharing training documents, tutorials, etc. with your students. If you want students or a group project to be able to edit, you can just quickly click on here and say, can edit. If you choose this option, once you send this link out through an email or through Canvas, etc., anyone who has this link can now edit the document. Notice here that you can also choose can comment. We're going to go over commenting in a second. So just remember that's an option as well. So this is a good way of getting a link, but you can also invite people in to edit. Remember, you have the option of view, comment, or edit when you're sending out a link. So we did just talk about commenting, so I'm going to cover that real fast. If you send in someone an invitation to comment, they're going to get a box like this in the upper right-hand corner. When they click on this, they can select the comment, notification. That's for you, the notifications option. For people who are invited to comment, they can click here and they get this box. So they can highlight different things. We can see the last thing I said was writing, so there's my comment. And if they have a Google profile picture, you'll be able to see that, plus you'll see the name of whoever's commenting. So you as the editor can resolve it or leave it. So you can see how this could be a good tool for a group project or for a group of people working on a document together. So the other option, of course, is, the other option that we're going to go over is switching the mode from editing to suggesting. So if you invite someone in to be an editor and you want them to be able to edit the document with you, but you want to be able to view their edits, such as with track changes, there's a feature in Google called suggesting. So once they're invited into editing, they can go into the upper right, or you can go into the upper right and switch it from editing mode to suggesting mode. So if you click on this, every track changes you make will show up, similar to track changes in Google Doc. So then you as the main editor can resolve it or X out of it. So if you want to leave this mode, you don't want to see the track changes anymore or accept them all, you can change it back to editing. So now the next thing I write won't have the changes. So that's the basics of going over collaborating, editing, sharing within Google. As you can see, the power of using Google Docs for this is the fact that it's an online system that you can share and collaborate within. But other than that, it's a pretty similar system to Microsoft Word. So next I'm going to move on to the last topic. So we're going to talk a little bit about formatting within Google Docs. And remember, with Google Slides, there's a lot of formatting you can do because it's a presentation software. But Google Docs can be a pretty powerful tool in terms of making content for your courses and sharing them with your students online. So of course, with Google Docs, because they're online, you can make them really interactive through hyperlinks. So you can hyperlink like in a website where you don't have to just throw in URLs. So the only issue with hyperlinking within a Google Drive is that it makes it more powerful when you use Google Docs as an online system. If you're not using Google Docs as an online system, like you export it to PDF or Microsoft Word, the hyperlinks might not come out as well. So other things you can do within Google Docs for visuals is add images. So similar to Drive, you can drag in an image that you have on your desktop, or you can do a screenshot using something like Jing, or if you're on a Mac, Command-Control-Shift-4. If you're on a PC, you can use your print screen. So here's me doing a screenshot of the comments and suggesting features, and then I can just paste it into the Google Doc. So images have some formatting within Google Docs, such as wrap text, break text. You can also see more image options here or here, such as adding transparency to the image, recoloring the image, and adding brightness and contrast. So those are some pretty cool basic features. You can obviously resize an image to be bigger or smaller, and it keeps it all within proportion. So one other thing you can do with a couple other things you can do for formatting, you can insert tables, and then within the tables you can do page formatting such as highlighting, colors, things like that, like similar to what I did with this table. This right here was done using a table. And then you can also go to File, Page Setup. It's a little hidden, but you can change it to orientation, alter your margins, change the paper size, and change the background. This can be good for adding a little bit of visual elements to your Google documents. We talked about add-ins before in this session. Here's where you can get add-ons, manage add-ons, and here you can see if you add one, this is where they'll show up. Here's where I added Lucid charts. So that's the basic of formatting and using Google Docs. Like I said, it's pretty similar to Microsoft Word, but it can be a little bit more powerful because it's an online word processing system. Last, I'll just show you that Google has an extensive amount of tutorials and support that they provide for Google for Education. If you go to www.google.com/edu, you'll be able to find products, training, and resources. They're constantly updating this, so it's a really good resource for people who are using Google extensively within education, and especially for training future teachers, since a lot of school systems are going to Google Education. You can see here they even have a higher ed tab if you want to look into that. So that's the basics of Google Drive. Are there any questions or comments you can share about if there's cool ways you're using Drives? So the question I just got is Lucidchart a component integrated with Google? Lucidchart is a add-on through Google that allows you to do diagrams, etc. So to get Lucidchart, first off, we can just look at what it is. So here's, if you wanted to look into what it is, and you can kind of see it through the images, you can quickly create these diagramming tools, but then they're within Google Docs, so that method we talked about of inviting in collaborators, commenting, etc., can be used with these diagrams. So to get, and if you wanted to learn more about it, you can just go to www.lucidchart.com, and they have extensive information about their add-on. So if you wanted to add it on, which I already did to experiment with it, you go to add-ons, get add-ons, and then go and find Lucidchart. Once you get it, it's really easy. It will show up here, and here I'm going to insert a diagram. It shows up on the right here. So it will let you sort through templates. So you can do a blank one, a vertical, blank, etc. So here's a blank one. So yeah, you can just mess with it that way. So your login, you will have to set, once you set up Lucidchart, it will ask you to create a login. But as a teacher, you can create it and then have your students collaborate on it through all the methods we talked about before. So here's how it looks. So you can start from blank or start from a template, but then you can just start adding on things. Are there any other questions? I just got a question about creating equations in Google Docs. That's a good question. So like Microsoft Word, I believe, you're going to have to add, the best method in Google Docs is to add an add-on for math. So I haven't delved into these extensively because this is the first time I've gotten this question, but if we go to add-ons, get add-ons, you can see here, I mean, the first thing that shows up is this one, math. So here's something where we can create graphs, including plotting points and complex math directly in your Google Doc. So this is free, you just click on it and then it integrates in, and then you can use this. So again, I don't know extensively about this, but this is typically the best way to do stuff like that within Google. There's other ones, but the fact that that one is showing up as big means that I think that's one of the more used ones. Here's something, where you can integrate charts more easily, a calculator. So there you go. So yeah, Google add-ons can be really useful in terms of, kind of adding a little bit more usability, especially to do with math and diagramming to your Google Docs. Are there any other questions? Does that answer your questions? Yes, the add-ons are really useful. Like I said, I do think the most powerful parts of the add-ons are for maths and diagramming. And they're free, and because it's Google and supported by Google, they typically come with a lot of tutorials, and even if you go on YouTube, there's a lot of educators that are using add-ons and they'll put their workflows online. So if there's a certain one you want to use, like if you want to experiment with Lucidcharts or a math add-on, you can go on YouTube and kind of see what other teachers are doing, tips and tricks, etc. Are there any other questions? Well, that's it for this session. We like to keep these brief at around 30 minutes. So again, this will be recorded. Everyone who is in this session, I will send you a link to something like this, where it goes over a script of kind of what I covered, as well as links out to the different resources we went on. I'm going to add a link, since I got some questions about this, to more information about add-ons, since they are such a useful tool. And I will also make an MP4 of this session, and that will be available for viewing later for people who are in the session and for interested parties after the fact. So that's the end. And if there's any other questions about Google for the School of Education, you're welcome to email me or IT. Like I said, they have extensive tutorials and support through IT as well.